communication protocol in our project. After that, Ramya will introduce how did we use the PID controller using the minimum and maximum governor. After that, Akash will give us some insight on the electrical throttle control. I will come back again to talk about how did we implement functional safety for this project. And at the end, Shyam will give us insight on the how did we use the field bench to make it better system. And at the end, we'll have a quick demonstration of our project. Now I will hand over to my colleague Venkat. He will come and talk about vehicle communication protocol.
Hi, myself Venkatesh Ganji. I've been working as infotainment test engineer since 2.5 years. And last couple of weeks, I came with LHP and I'm trying to gas engine control. And for that, we use the CAN communication. Then today, I'm going to discuss about vehicle communication protocol for our project. In nowadays, we're using for CAN communication for all vehicles, and not only communication. There is a vehicle communication for lane or almost any vehicle communication in order to reduce the hardness and reduce the complexity of wiring, or reduce the noise and easy to fix the diagnostics and everything. We start using the vehicle communication protocols. These are some issues in the car with mobile or seat controls, brake system and transmissions and engine control and everything is connected in a bus to the CAN. And my agenda is vehicle communication protocols, CAN, LIN, and MOST. And in LHP, we use the CAN communication in electronic throttle control or hill simulation. We use for that. I will explain about how we use the CAN communication in our project. This is LIN. We use the maximum, in any vehicle, they use a multiple of CAN and LIN and MOST. People, some of the modules in the car, they use the climate control or windows and doors and wipers and using for LIN. And this is the if so LIN is low cost, and some of the low end vehicles they use for LIN, and some of them the futures also they use the LIN, and most also some multimedia or related to the functioning of infotainment features they use the most. And coming to this, this is the main we are in all OEMs they're using the this is a vector case, and for CAN communication they are using all OEMs nowadays. And this is in our project. I would like to explain in LHP, we use the Kavaser CAN protocol. This we connected to the ECU and flash into the motor tool software. And we're using here in the motor tool software. Actually, in the OEMs we use CAN and everything, but here we are using in our project we are using the motor tool software through Kavaser CAN case, and we are connected to the ECUs and flashing into the ECU to the motor tool software. And we are in the motor tool software, we are changing the values in order to engine performance. We are changing the values and we're checking the fuel and everything. And this is a motor tool software. It looks like one of that. This is a values where we can change the engine values or fuel values or everything we can change over here via we connected to the software to the CAN Kavaser cable. This is communication we are using here. This is it's really, it looks how we we in our project we use the CAN motor tool. This is our motor tool software we are using over here. This is a cable, what I said, CAN communication. And this we are connected to the ECU and we flash into the data to our motor tool software. Then here, what we tested electronic throttle or hill simulation, we are checking over here, make sure to get the better performance. Like especially in the here our project we use the communication called like J1939 CAN communication. In that we have the different type of layers, application layer and diagnostic layer and data link layer and transport protocol. These are like in the CAN communication. And we are here like we decode the CAN messages and we do it and we fix the issues and we report it to the GIA and that's what it is like. And remaining minimum and maximum governor, my colleague, one of my colleague Ramya, she will explain about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Venkat. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to discuss about the minimum and maximum governor and what are the strategies we implemented in designing, and we'll discuss about simulation results. Minimum governor is the ideal controller which controls the minimum speed not to fall below the target RPM. And we developed a system in a MATLAB engine controller with the NDP gain, which is a slider controller from 0 to 100, which acts as an acceleration pedal. By defining 3 states for the engine, like stall state, crank state, and run state. Stall state is from 0 to 50 RPM, and 50 to 500 is in crank state, and greater than 500 is in run state. Main controlling will be done in run state. So we developed the 3 subsystems in run state, like state manager and set point RPM and Mingo PI. State manager, which tells the controller to when to turn on or turn off the Mingo. Set point is like which maintains the set point throughout the controller, and PI is the P gain and I gain saturation limits. We know the Mingo 4.33 is the required fuel for this, so we use that as a feed forward strategy instead of giving it in a feedback. And simulation results are like this. There's a lot of noises in this, and calibration plays a major role. So calibrating the P gain, I gain, and we have to get the desired output. Maximum governor. Maximum governor is used to control the higher RPM, or not to go beyond the target RPM. Further, we developed the maximum governor controller similarly like Mingo in our run state, like the subsystems of state manager, set point, and the PI controller. And we implemented 2 extra strategies here, like hold strategy and IC manager. There was a lot of instability between when we get the output between the ABP fuel and the max curve fuel. So we use the hold strategy when to turn on and turn off the max curve. And this initial condition manager is the signal which has a lot of noise and higher amplitude. To reduce that, we implemented the low pass filter and derivative with the lookup table. And we change the values for the lookup table by checking the fuel or at the rate of RPM. And the output of this max curve is like we checked at the initial load, and this is for different loads of 100, 150, and 200. We see a lot of overshoots, undershoots. So this can be reduced by calibrating P gain and I gain fuel values. And then we'll get the desired output when we accelerate the pedal, and it will goes to the maximum of 1700, which is a set point. And window will turn on and it will come to a set point of 700, and same will repeat for the different loads. Next will be continued by the Akash.
Good afternoon. My name is Akash Konda. I completed my master's in mechanical engineering from the University of South Florida in May. And today I'll be talking about the electronic throttle control. An electronic throttle control replaces a traditional mechanical throttle cable. This is done by establishing a link between the accelerator pedal and the throttle body using electrical signals. And this is a brief setup of our test bench. Our main objective is to make the throttle move to a desired position as swiftly and precisely as possible. For this, we have sensors and actuators. The 2 sensors we are using are the throttle position potentiometer and the accelerator pedal potentiometer. This is used to control the throttle, and the actuator is the DC motor in the throttle body. Now these are the components. This is an electronic throttle body from Bosch Motorsports. The input is a PWM signal, and the output is a position which corresponds to a particular voltage. This is the Woodworks ECM that we've been using. This enables us to use MotorHawk, MotorTune, and Simulink to develop the code and flash it onto the ECU. The basic control logic we're using is a PI controller, which is used to reduce the error from the desired position and the actual position, which is later fed into the throttle motor. The Woodworks ECU converts the analog to digital and digital to analog for us and uses the control loop, which is in a loop. This is a system configuration we have, which uses the Kvaser CAN cable to communicate between the ECM and also calibrate various parameters. Once we have calibrated the P and I gains by experimentally, and we've reduced the overshoot, the rise time, and we've reduced the noises, this is the video how the throttle body is proportional to the accelerator pedal. This is our result where you can see the tracking of the throttle with respect to the given input. Thank you.
Thank you, Akash. So now we are going to be talking about functional safety for the electronic throttle control. So we'll be talking about what is the functional safety, and then we'll go into what are the requirements for our project for the ETC, and then how did we plan to meet that requirement. And after that, we'll be doing some tests to see if we actually met the plans. So what is the functional safety? Functional safety is basically it's international standards for making electrical and electronics more safer for human beings. It provides it's used throughout the life cycle of the products. It also provides an automotive specific risk-based approach to determine integrity levels, which is called ASIL. We'll be talking more about ASIL in the next slides. That is very important. It also has a lot of other advantages to use standards, such as it provides requirements for relationship with the suppliers, with the OEM. Functional safety standards, it actually follows the V diagram. It is incorporated in every single part of it, from item definition all the way up to the hardware and software implementation, all the way to the gray of the part to the decomposition. So functional safety is very important. It makes it safer, and it's implemented in every single step. So what is ASIL? So basically, this is automotive safety integrity level. How do we find out if anything is safe, and how do we determine that? So we have some criteria. ASIL is mainly composed of three main components: exposure, controllability, and severity. We'll look at each one of them in the next slide. So these are some of the parameters for the severity classes. There are 4 different classes. Same thing with the probability exposure. There are 5 different classes for the exposure. And for the controllability, there are 3 classes. Now, when we are looking at this table, now we can determine where do we fall. If it's A level ASIL, it's the least harmful. And then if it's B level ASIL, that's most harmful. And if it's a QM, that means it doesn't meet any requirements. It just means that quality maintenance will go ahead and do the job. And if there are any requirements, then we'll have to make sure that we design it in a way that it's better. For our project, for ETC, what are the requirements based on ASIL? So all of these mainly circle around on the, it provides the unintended protection against the unintended acceleration, and what happens in the case of a stuck throttle. So that's what we'll be looking at. Those are the requirements, and everything is classified as acidity. It's not really bad. It's not a D level, it's a B level, but still we need to address it. So what did we do? What did we plan for it? So what we planned is we have built-in tests. We will have a continuous built-in test, and we will have one test at the beginning. When ETC starts up, we will make sure that it goes in a full circle and it checks everything and sees everything is supposed to work. And if it does, then it will move forward. Otherwise, it will give us indication. Same thing If there is anything that is broken, it will give an indication with the LED, and we will see that in the tests later on. Also, this is one important thing, that if anything was to go wrong, we need to make sure that ATC goes back to 10 to 15% desired. We don't want it to go back to 0, because that will be also fatal. So we designed this in a way that it goes back to 10 to 15%. Now let's look at some tests. So this is the first one, that is full sweep of the throttle at the beginning. So when we start it, it should go ahead and do the full sweep. As you can see in the video, I'm starting it right here. And then look at the throttle. It will go all the way down, and then it goes back. And as you can see, it doesn't close back 100%. It's only 10 to 15%. So that's how we have designed it. Let's look at the next test. This is the broken wire test. So let's see what happens in the case of a broken wire. So right now, let's assume that the car is running, and then there's a air supplying, so that's open. And then all of a sudden, wire breaks. What happens? Yep, it goes back to 10 to 15%. That's what we wanted. That's the intention. Lastly, we will look at what happens in the case of stuck throttle. It should be giving us indication saying that, hey, there's something wrong. There should be a LED flashing. This LED that we are looking at. So right now, I'm going to jam the throttle, and it lighted up the way we wanted. And it went back off. Now next, Shyam will be talking about how did we utilize the hardware for our project. Thank you, guys.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Shyam Nagari. I did my master's in mechanical engineering from Michigan Tech, and I'm here today to discuss about agile testing for gasoline engine control. So the control model that we have developed is designed specifically for General Motors Ecotec 2.2 liter gasoline engine. We have divided our whole control strategy into three components, or three subsystems, mainly on the basis of engine operating states, which are stall, crank, and run. In gasoline engine control, we have also implemented window control, which controls the idle speed of the engine, so that in absence of accelerated idle command, the engine speed is controlled and is maintained at the idle speed value. So we control the engine by integrating the ECU with listed sensors and actuators, and the engine control model is programmed in the ECU. In sensors, we have accelerated pedal sensor, we have total body sensor, which respectively track the position of accelerator and throttle. We have mass airflow sensor, we have encoder, which measures the engine RPM. In actuators, we have throttle body motor, which drives the throttle body. We have fuel injector, spark plug, fuel pump, which does the work of injection and ignition. So why are we using agile testing instead of directly using the code on the engine? The first reason is that if there are any bugs or error in the model, then it will severely change the engine behavior, and it might create a hazardous situation. So we reduce this by doing agile testing. We also reduce the testing cost, as we are not using the entire plant for the testing purpose. And we are simulating multiple scenarios using agile testing, as we can do it using our software. And it will help us save a lot of time. So this is our agile testing setup. This is the list of the components which are present in the setup. We have accelerator pedal, we have throttle body, we have a potentiometer which we will use to simulate the engine RPM signal. We have two ECUs over here. We have conveyor CAN cable, which is going to connect both the ECU with the laptop, so that we can use it to flash the ECU and also monitor the CAN bus messages. We have 12-volt power supply for ECU and sensor and actuator. We have indicator light, which will show us the error signals while in the flash. So we did our agile testing procedure in the following steps. Our first step was using Motif software for flashing the ECU with the final code that we have developed. Then we did FPS and TPS calibration using gain and offset to bring the value of those sensors within the operating range of 0 to 100. Then we verified all the sensor outputs and actuator inputs in all three states, as our control logic is divided into three parts, and we wanted to verify the inputs and outputs during all three of those portions. and we tweak the controller gains and saturation limit as per the operating nature of the different control logic, so that we get an appropriate behavior. So this is a short video of the agile testing setup, which will show the overall control logic and the testing. So initially, the engine is in state 1, which is stall state, because the RPM of engine is currently 0, as potentiometer is at 0. So when I increase the potentiometer, it will actually simulate the engine RPM increment. And when the RPM rises above 50, it goes into the engine state 2, which is the crank state. As RPM increases above 500, the engine goes into run state. And when the minimum governor controller comes into action, so it is currently controlling the throttle body, and it will try to maintain the engine speed at 700 RPM. So when the RPM goes above 700, the throttle is closed, and when it falls below, the throttle opens on its own. So right now, a minimum governor controller is active when it is trying to control the engine RPM using the throttle. And when the RPM exceeds above 900, the minimum governor control is executed. So currently, minimum governor control is not active, and now it gets active. So when we'll use the accelerated pedal, it will actually override the minimum governor control and will control the throttle directly using the accelerated pedal. And after we stop using the accelerated pedal, even on changing the RPM of engine, the minimum governor will come into action, and it will try and manage to make the RPM stable at 700. So my two big takeaway from the agile testing process were that it really made the debugging very easy, as we could explore all the values of signals and gain without worrying about damaging anything. And it also reduced the hazard as the engine was not connected with the ECU. So we could explore different possibilities and with the gains on our own. So this is the end of my presentation. I'd like to welcome my friend Ramya to show us the demonstration video. Thank you.
Thank you, Shyam. Like we designed the model-based motor engine, and we are implementing that on engine. And this is the overall setup for that. We used MotoTune for calibrating values, and now engine is in stall state. When we check the values, like injector is turned off, and we check the in a crank state, and engine is cranked and dropped down. And when we change the crank threshold to 500 because we want to check it in the run state, and we turned on the injectors because we need fuel for the run state. We can see that there will be a acceleration the increase in RPM, and it will come to the set point of 1200, which is used as a set point in window controller. Window controller will turn on, it comes to a set point. When we accelerate the pedal at that point, and we can see there will be an increase in RPM. Here we can see there is an increase in RPM around 2000, and window will turn on and comes to a set point of 1200. By implementing this and simulating the results successfully, we have completed the functional safety on control system of gasoline engine. Thank you. I would like to welcome my team here, and if you have any question, please feel free to ask.